Good morning, Amy Spain Duncan. I am an alcoholic. I always get emotional when people say nice things about me. I do. That's not what they were saying. The conversation has changed a little bit. Thank God. So my sobriety date is March 6th of 2010. My sponsor says when I get invited, it's so you all feel better about yourselves. So hopefully very shortly, you're going to be like, oh, could be worse. I'm not doing so bad, you know. And then everybody has a role to play in AA. There are a lot of waters, Jason. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a junkie for this stuff. And I do what the people took and told me to do. That's all I do. I follow directions in Alcoholics Anonymous. I try not to pick out the parts I don't like or the parts that are inconvenient or the parts I'd rather someone else do, and I just do what's in front of me to do. And in the process of that, I've been able to be sober and divinely inconvenienced for about 15 years. So I want to thank Ben. Ben's a good friend of mine, and I love him, and I know how hard he works on this deal. And I want to thank the committee, because I've been on these committees, and this isn't an easy thing to put together. And I want to thank all of you that show up, man, so the electricity, the energy, the music of Alcoholics Anonymous can be felt and experienced. And if you're new, like my friend Jason says, you're wanted, welcome, and needed in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was good information for me. I wasn't wanted, welcome, or needed anywhere I went. Mom had shut the door. Don't come here. You've heard enough people here. For a mother to say that to her daughter was difficult. But you had to protect yourself from the tornado of me. I couldn't protect myself from me. I couldn't protect my children from me. I couldn't protect my family from me. And everything about me was angled and sharp and hurt. And that's how I moved through life. And then this beautiful design for living. That a wretch like me could live in a new experience with new ideas. And you give me a lot of time to practice it, which is really important because it doesn't happen overnight. And that's where we get into this step work. Stop the bleeding, you know? Yes, sir. And if you don't know how to do that in Alcoholics Anonymous, learn it. Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. And I do want to say I would be wrong to say that my heroes are sitting in these rows. I've already cried this morning in my room. I try to keep it light. You know, that energy Brittany was talking about. If you've ever watched Seinfeld, think of Kramer. That's kind of what I bring to the party. I'm a little spastic, you never know. And but under the joy and the laughter and the levity, there's a deadly seriousness, you know, and I'd be amiss not to talk about that. And step 4, you know what I love about and remember, we live life where we understand it backwards. I didn't know this in 2010. I didn't know what was happening. I had no insight on the magic that was occurring and the spiritual shift that was changing. I only knew that my sponsor said do this, so I did that. I followed directions. And then if you stay sober, and I think Joe talked about it later, these steps are in place. Whether you have a year sober, 10 years sober, 30 years sober, they're going to speak to you. You're going to understand that it's a timeless piece of material. And thank God for that, because I get bored. And then lose interest. So it's important that there's always a message for me in Alcoholics Anonymous, regardless of my length of sobriety, regardless of what's going on in my life. And we go through things around here. You know, Katie shared last night, and Victor, and we all do. I got a week to write a eulogy for my friend who died of this disease at 50 years old. I don't want to do that. Man, I've been pushing the grief out. You guys do that? I'm too busy. I'll cry later. I got things to do. I got people to see. I got sponsees to pick up. I need to take a meeting somewhere I don't want to end up, like my friend Harold taught me. And I push it and I push it. But it's waiting for me. I told Grief I'd get to her on Sunday. We'll see. But I have been crying a little bit this morning. She doesn't like to take direction from me. But when we look at this step work, right, we look at this powerless and unmanageability, this thing, and we do that. That's how we get here. We get here on step one. If things are going well, I'm not coming to your meeting. I'm good. Right? Nobody comes on a winning streak. The acknowledgement of the powerlessness, the unmanageability, and maybe we don't see it all, and thank God we don't. Thank God we don't. Thank God we don't see it all. What we see when we get here is enough. Because any more than that, and I might put a bullet in my brain. The reality of what we've done and the damage and the weight of it and where we are and that hopelessness. Whew. But when I get to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm not in trouble. I'm wanted, welcome, and needed. You're looking at a little girl that's been in trouble her whole life. Imagine that, Barkley. Weird. I talk too much. I can't sit still. I lost my homework, and I'm, I'll fight you. Like Jason. So, I sit in the front of the school bus. I get kicked off the school bus. I have to go to the principal's office. I got to sit in front of the class. My friends don't want to be my friends anymore. I've been in trouble my whole life. And when I got here, you weren't mad at me. And that was a big deal. Because I felt like everybody had been mad at me since I was 7 years old. And here you weren't mad. And we laughed together. And the fellowship and the laughter and the hugs and the prayers and the magic of it all. And I was sucked in. I was hooked. And in step one, I'm coming in and my head's down. Like Joe was talking about, you got to get down low and help me raise my chin up because I can't look you in the eye. I'm staring at my feet. And the world is ugly and it's dark and I don't know what to do. And the last thing I want to do is sit in your meetings and talk about drinking. It makes me thirsty. All this talk about drinking's made me thirsty. And I think that's what you do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I get to that step two. And I come to believe, and I come to believe, and I come to believe, and I came to believe, and I came to believe, and I came to believe. And that doesn't stop, right? And this little mustard seed of faith, this little thing that says, well, maybe. And then the reliance on God develops. This risk I'm taking. I got nothing left to lose. Sure, we'll hang it on the man upstairs. Roll the dice. And it happens, and it works, and it works, and it works. And I'm coming to believe. And then I do that third step prayer. So this is all about my misery and my suffering and my pain. Opening mind. The steps kind of crack us open. Right? The honesty, the open-minded, and the willingness necessary. It started to open my mind. And they say, okay, we're going to make a decision. We're going to make a decision in 3, and I love the language of step 4. I heard a speaker say one time, our literature is full of promises and death threats. And step 4's got a lot of death threats. They get real serious here. Up till now, it's kind of been like, we know you're suffering. We have a solution. And then they're like, you're going to die. Our very lives. Dang. And I love this. And it says that we're going to take this inventory, and here comes the death threats, right? The resentment is the number one offender. Prior to that, he says we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. You've introduced a new idea. I caused my failure? Hold on. Wait, maybe you didn't hear me when I told you about my dad and my mom and the divorce and the teachers and the friends and the coaches and that guy and that girl. Maybe you didn't. What do you mean the flaws in my? I'm sorry, what? Caused all my problems. He's introduced an idea. He's introduced an idea in step 4 that maybe, just maybe, some of this lies with you. And are you willing to take a look at that? And they got me because they told me that I came off the streets. I'm a fighter since I was 8 years old, and they said, the world and its people dominate you. And what? No one dominates me. I'm the biggest dog in the yard. And they're like, oh, no, little girl, you've got it all backwards. They start to open my mind. I'm taking a new angle of approach. an angle of approach to my literature, to my life. I'm writing it down on paper. This requires something from me. And here's where we lose a lot of folks. Because I like the feel good. I like the cookies and the coffee and the hugs and the laughter. This God idea, that didn't require too much from me. I can go there with you. I can shoot up a prayer to the heavens. But now you've asked me to look at me, to clear away some wreckage, and I balk. This idea that I'm going to let go of my excuses and reasons, my causes and conditions. This is what I drink about. You want me to give that to you? Then how will I? Wait a minute. Right? So it gets scary. So they emphasize, well, you don't have to, but you'll die. Okay. I'll consider it then. Let's just walk slowly into it, right? In this, it says that, and they talk about spiritual disease in step 4, and that was a new concept for me. They give me this idea that if I straighten out spiritually, I will begin to straighten out mentally and physically. That's backwards, that's different. And in step 4, I'm constantly reminded to keep the main thing the main thing. Because the alcoholic gets well, and we're forgetful. I'm doing good. I got my spirit. I got a 5-year medallion. I got a 2-year medallion. I got a 30-year medallion. Right? Time to worry about me. Right? I met a lady the other day, and she said her sponsor told her she only had to sponsor 3 women because she needed to take care of herself. I said, "Could I have your sponsor's number?" It's not allowed in my sponsorship line. What is this you speak of? This weird world, right? Everything, Georgia and I were talking about this, everything in Alcoholics, and my dad used to say, they talk in nursery rhymes. You know, everything's backwards. It's the paradox. It's this thing. How does worrying about you help me? That doesn't make sense in the physical and in the mental, but in the spiritual realm, magic. So how much of this do you want? How free do you want to be, right? So it reminds me that we heard step 3 yesterday. Katie, right? Or I think it was Jason was talking about, probably not Jason. Listen, in Alcoholics Anonymous, you get a family around you, and I have sisters and aunts and grandmas and uncles, but I got these 2 brothers. Jimmy A is my big brother. He's safe, he's encouraging, he loves on you, he calls you kid. You feel good. And then Jason's like my younger brother, and he's pulling things and he's throwing peas at you, and goddamn, yeah. But I don't know what I'd do without him. And we get that. So, but in step 3, we heard, my life is no longer any of my business. I'm fitting myself for maximum service. Right? So this is that God idea. This is that thing. But I have to be useful. You have to I have a lump of clay, and we got to start cutting some stuff away. We got to start shaping this to fit in with what the program's going to tell us to do. And we set up that resentment list. This is why sponsorship is so important. We do this, just me and God. But all through here, after we get this list, we consider, we realize, we look at it from a different angle. Opening my mind to new ideas, contemplation, right? This indicates time with God, time in prayer. That's me and God. We're doing this. And then I'm going to take it out to my sponsor and drop that 5th step. My resentment list was really long. I had a lot of people I could blame. Excuses. I get drunk at them every time. And I always laugh when people are like, I don't know how to put out my resentment list. Or I'm like, are you kidding me? I went through a verbal rendition of my resentments at every bar I was ever in. And another thing, did I tell you about that? Hey, I practiced. I'm ready. You want me to write it? I'm happy to put it in writing. I've been dictating this for 6 years. I'll write that down and I feel pretty good because, I'm in that first column and who I'm mad at, and I'm real detailed about what caused the harm. Oh. And then I get to that third column, right? What part of me was affected? No problem. Across the board, that SOB stepped on my toes. I'll show you that. And then that fourth column, where was my mistakes? My mistake was trusting you. Because you're a loser. More walls. And I need my sponsor there because there's times when I can't see that. I have justifiable anger. I feed and live in justifiable anger. It's what makes me safe. Anger is the bodyguard for the sad little girl. And she knows how to play. You know, and I'm using these we haven't talked about character defects or shortcomings, but they're in play. And that's when I have to start peeling them back to look at my part in this. I have to start putting down the weapons. I have to get honest. I got to get humble. And sometimes I need you to tell me. Because what we're doing in 4 is training our eye so that I can do 10. I can't do 10 if I haven't done 4. And if I haven't opened my mind to this new angle of approach, this place where I'm at fault, then I'm not going to do 10 effectively. You know, my sponsor's favorite thing for Amy is the step 10 spiritual axiom. And I mean, listen, I'm mad and didn't you mad and it shouldn't have been and why they. And she says, whenever I'm disturbed, something's wrong with me, not the other man. Whenever, Katie, every time, because I feel like we could share this with someone else. I feel like you did some things, so I'm struggling with this, but in 4, they introduced me to this idea, so that at 10, I've already opened up, I can already look, I'm starting to see things from a different side. And it gives me prayer. My friend Alex said, a 4th step without prayer is just more self-knowledge. I got plenty of that, and we know what that'll do for us. So I got to get into the prayers of step 4. The reflection, the realization, the angle of approach. I need God for this. I need God for this. I need God for this. Right? So as I'm writing that, am I in communion? Am I truly self-seeking? Or, seeking that knowledge, those things to be brought up in me so I can get rid of them. My sponsor says I'm surfacey. I don't like deep waters. Let's keep it light. Right? Because there's that stuff, and my sponsor loves to go, why? Well, I'm mad. Why? Well, why? Why? I don't know why. Why? Deeper, 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 deeper. I'm getting the bends down here, lady. Yeah. That's where the growth is. That's where the pain is. That's where the work is. I got to get there. But in doing this, I'm going to learn. I'm going to digest. Katie talked about it. Digest. Swallow and digest. It's got to become part of me, a working part of my brain that's designed for living. It's rolling out in front of me, and I have to participate in this. I love it when people say, I said the resentment prayer, and I said, okay. And we all prayer is good. Please help, thank you. All prayer is good. But our resentment prayer is, God save me from being angry. And that's my mantra, right? Oh, Jesus, Lord, please. Please don't let me embarrass myself at this conference. Keep your hands in your pocket, Amy. I got that, you say something to me with a sharp edge, and I got to, all right, breathe. Because that little angry girl protected and kept me safe, and she's got tools she wants to use all the time. And I'm only 15 years in, and she still shows up. And I got to let her know, thanks for keeping me safe. But these people, they got this new idea of love and tolerance and kindness, and I want to try it. Where's my part? What is the right answer? And it's a practice. I'm going to keep practicing this. we get those resentments down on paper. I want to tell you sponsorship is important because we can't always see those things. My resentment, if you've heard my story, I married brothers, not at the same time. My home group likes me to always add the side note, they weren't my brothers. Even though I am from Kentucky. For Ben. Yeah. But my mother-in-law, you know what mother-in-laws, you heard about Victor's mother-in-law, right? Mother-in-laws can just screw stuff up. And she was the reason my marriages failed. And she said, my sponsor said, you don't see where you set the ball in motion? Or you stepped on the toes of your fellows? And I said, I gave her beautiful children by all her sons. Everybody feeling pretty good about themselves? You're welcome. It's not the most embarrassing thing I've ever done, but the one I'm willing to share from the podium. So, but wait, there's more. Just nuts, man. Restored to sanity, restored to sanity, restored to sanity. That's the goal, right? I get through this resentment list, right? And then I'm gonna look at these fears. This was hard for me. I had snakes and spiders. That was my first fear list. And I'm not afraid of snakes, but I figured my sponsor would want more than one. I was going for the B+, on that. Like snake or spiders, really don't like them. Creepy, weird things. Ooh, one doesn't seem enough. Snakes. And I turned that into her, and we sat down, and she just shook her. Good Lord. If I got a doozy here, right? Everybody pray for sponsors. And she said, Amy, it's not talking about that kind of fear. It's talking about those fears that motivate. And I said, I'm not afraid of nothing. She said, honey, you're afraid of everything. I mean, maybe you are. I can see that you look frail and weak, but I'm not. I'm not afraid of nothing. And she said, yeah, you are. She said, that's why you have this bravado. That's why you have this mask. That's why you play Billy Badass and Tough Girl. And you get loud and you furrow your brow and you point your finger and you raise up like a grizzly bear to keep everybody back. Because that's what scared people do. Stay away. Don't come near. All right? We got a fight or flight. Some animals roll in a bowl. I think armadillos, they roll up. They're not me. You got the right one here. You want to fight? I got tickets to Crazy Town. Like we can load up. You're going to regret that decision. Because I'm animalistic and I'm insane and there's no limits to what I do to protect me and hurt you. There's no boundaries to it. And I didn't know that was fear. I didn't know that people still dominated me, that fear decided where I went, what I did, who I talked to. What if I went back to school, if I took that job, if I talked to those people. Fear, 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 the corrosive thread that runs through every fiber of our being. The longer I stay sober, the more I realize where my fears exist and how they still motivate me today. And the fun thing is, this 4-step, it's big chunks of truth, but wait, there's more. This process, this constantly returning in 10, where is this showing up? Where am I doing this? Where am I harming others? Right? From this 4-step, I'm going to get my first glimpse at a harms list. And that's sex inventory. Ooh-wee. If sex is troublesome... Yeah. I use sex as a form of business. It was a contract between me and you. And you didn't understand the contract, nor did I go over the details of it, but it existed. And there were expectations and demands, and it was the hook, and it was where I saw my value and my worth. It's what I used to manipulate, to gain power, right? Boy, and I had to start looking at that. I had to start unpacking that. So I had some things happen when I was young, kind of set me up for that, my behaviors. I had a woman tell me when I was 15 years old, a drunk woman is any man's woman. Ominous warning I failed to heed. By the time I was 35, I realized I was sitting on a gold mine, and I started selling it. But I've been giving this away forever. You mean it has a cash value? Call them up. Yeah. Man, it was twisted. I had to unpack this. I had to look at this, and it was painful. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Those questions that asked me in that sex inventory. And then shaping this sane ideal. Right? This is indicating more time with God, more time in prayer, more time in reflection, more time asking direction. Right? This is where I keep going to. 3, you set me up, you introduced me, I turned my life over, and now me and God, we're going to start unpacking resentment. We're going to start unpacking my fears. We're going to look at that sex inventory. And I've got compiled a harms list from this. I will tell you, the ego's tremendous. By the time I wrote all this down, the reality of me was devastating to me. The reality of me was devastating to me. I was so ashamed. The realization that I was the creator of chaos, that I had caused these problems, that these were my causes and conditions, that it wasn't your fault anymore, and it was sitting in my lap again. I couldn't catch my breath. I was devastated. So when I got to putting together that list of harms I'm going to do in 4, I had 140 people. My sponsor said, "You're not that important." She said, "Did you crash a commercial airliner? Are you a pilot? A brain surgeon? Like, you didn't hurt this many people. You're not that important." I had my cousin's daughter's baby shower because I didn't go. She said, "Did they have the baby shower?" I said, "Oh, yeah." She said, "They're so glad you didn't go." No harm. Take it off. All right. I need someone with experience. I need somebody with a different set of eyes. My magic magnifying mind, that pride in reverse. I'm either better than you or I'm the worst thing in the world, right? And we're not even 2, 6, and 7 yet, but I'm going to start looking for some character defects. This book, it opens us up. It primes the pump. It moves you slowly. So all of a sudden, you're saying, Larry, the plumber from LA, he says, 1, 2, and 3, this is me and God. And 4, 5, 6, and 7, this is you. And then 8 and 9 turns me to making those amends right. This book is turning me. It's turning my direction. I come in backwards, man, and I got to be straightened out. And these little steps and these ideas and these words, and they're so important. When it says we ask God, that's a prayer. When it says we reflect, that indicates meditation, some time of contemplation, quiet reflection. Am I following these directions? Am I doing what it says to do? When I get women that sponsor, women, can you sponsor me? I tell them right, I don't have packets. I'm not that, I'm Kramer. If I had a packet, I'd lose the pages. It would be wrinkled up. There'd be coffee stains. It would confuse both of us. I don't have a packet. There's so many ways we can do this, but I need it simple. Because I'll get spun out and my feet will lose the planet and I'll get into this intellectual contemplation and my ego will tell me how smart I am for seeing things that Katie couldn't see, and look at I'll invent Amy's program and pull you completely away from this one. And I can't do that. I do what it says. If it says we write, we write. If it says we ask, we ask. If it says we contemplate. But I've only got 15 years sober. More. But wait, there's more. Maybe at 30 years sober, I'll know more, I'll do more, it'll expand, and it's supposed to, because this is a process of expansion. It's where I came in like this, and my world just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I get to be a part of that. So my fifth step, I told you, my sponsor didn't like me. And it's not required. She was just, she was just doing the way. I think there were short straws drawn, and she ended up with me. Like, what are we gonna? It's your turn. Because I was, oh God, badly mangled. And I love badly mangled. Badly mangled's my favorite. Them's my people. You know, you got a few teeth missing, some dirt on your knee, and do like that. Come sit by me, sweetheart. We're going for a ride. Because that's where I came from. That's what I know. I got sober in a homeless shelter. Because there was nowhere else for me to go. You know, when I got sober, there was no insurance for all. You didn't have a job. You didn't have insurance. You didn't have insurance. You go to the homeless shelter. There wasn't a recovery center on every corner and somebody, you know, begging you to come in and offer you free housing so they can bill Medicaid on your behalf. I'm sorry. Not necessary from the podium. Jesus. Spun out. I'm back. Anyway, what I was saying is there's no options. There weren't options. So I end up in a homeless shelter with 250 other women. And I got nowhere else to be, and I'm badly mangled, and I'm defeated. And I go to a meeting, and a woman holds up this book, and she says, "You find somebody who's properly armed with the facts about themselves and this disease." So I walked up to her after the meeting. I said, are you that person? She said, yes. And I said, will you sponsor me? And she said, yes. And early on, I would call her up whining about, you know, newcomers, we whine. I still whine. I would try to make it sound like I don't. But when self-pity and whatever. And she said, the only people we're going to feel sorry for is anybody that met you. She hung up on me, and I had borrowed the payphone money. I was like, Jesus. So I felt like I should report her to the headquarters of AA or something. But self-pity was off the table. We weren't doing that. One time I called her up and asked her, do you ever pick up women and take them to meetings? I've heard about that, you know. And she said, did I ever take you to the liquor store? She said, your recovery is your responsibility. You got everywhere else you wanted to be. Man, she was hard. She was hard. But let me tell you, I would go to that meeting by hook or crook. I would take the bus. I would walk. I would bum a ride. I would get to that meeting. Just like I got to that liquor store. With one half the zeal. One half the zeal. And I got where I needed to be. And Rhonda would be there. And she would take me home. I had to meet her. She wasn't going to work harder than me for my recovery. You know. She set some hard boundaries with that. And I needed that. And Rhonda's approach was tough, and it was abrasive, and it was all those things. And I know love and tolerance and all, you know, but I could hear her. She was who I needed. She was at her post when I came rolling in, grimy and dirty from these streets. And if I had Shaylin, she's so sweet and nice, I would have stole her car. Day one. I'm in her purse. I'll watch your purse. Yeah, go to the bathroom. I can't be trusted. I needed Rhonda. I needed somebody. Clancy used to talk about the Teflon that covers the alcoholic. She pierced through. I could hear her. I believe she was like me. She was 3 years sober, so she still cussed real hard, you know, and I needed that. There's a wrench for every nut in Alcoholics Anonymous, and she was my wrench. And the day I dropped my fist up, she picked me up. It was the only time she picked me up. She took me to her house, and I was, whoa, it was crazy. She stopped and bought me breakfast. A hungry belly has no ears. When we're picking these women up from homeless shelters and detoxes, she fed me. And then she fed me, right? And we sat down and we did this fifth step, and then she took me back with explicit instructions to take this, go find a quiet place to be alone. What am I doing? I'm in meditation. What am I doing? I'm back with God. See, me and God, we did this fourth step. We followed the black words on the white print. We made lists. We made columns. We prayed. We did all these things, right? Me and God. And then God's like, now go tell Rhonda. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go tell Rhonda. And then Rhonda goes, go back to God and sit down for an hour. And this thing begins to happen. I love our fifth step promises. That didn't happen for me. But I love it that it happens for some people. I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. I'm like, good for you. Good for you. Hand in hand, you say, with your Creator. Amazing. Didn't feel like that. I felt awful. Awful. The reality of me was laying on top of me. And I was devastated. And worse than that, I knew I couldn't fix it. I knew it. The reality that this is the best I could do. This is all I got. This was the best I could do. It was all me. It was always me. When I hurt my children and abandoned them, when I dropped them off and never came back. When I put my hands on my mom because she tried to get between me and the door and I need a drink. It was me. The career, the shame. Every time I sold myself for $20 or the promise of $20. It was me. I was devastated. Our original manuscript, Bill had wrote, humbly on our knees. In our seventh. And I want you to know that the weight of that fifth drove me to my knees. I didn't get a good feeling in 5 because it wasn't time for me to have that yet. At the end of me, I find God. And at the end of that fifth step, at the end of that fourth step work, there was nowhere else to turn. I was at the end of me. And I couldn't fix it. And my conversation with God was not like, I am now ready that you would have all of me. The good and the bad. I said, you fix this, you SOB. You fix this. How dare you let a monster like me exist and walk around and hurt people? How dare you? Those kids didn't deserve that. Those women didn't deserve it. My mom, my dad, all those people. How dare you? You should have took the breath out of my body a long time before now. And if I'm going to live, you better fix this. Because I was mad. I was mad at me. I was crushed under the weight of that truth that I looked at in 4. And there was nowhere else to go. You couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix it. She couldn't fix it. They couldn't fix it. And I'm driven before my Creator, humbled. And I had a white light experience on 6 and 7, and things began to really shift and change quickly. And then we go through the rest of the steps. That fourth step is about looking at me. It's the first time we pull up the mirror. It's the first time. And listen, I don't know about you, but I wasn't looking in mirrors. I was brushing my teeth, looking at the faucet. I was combing my hair in the car. You know, I wasn't looking in mirrors. I wasn't looking at myself eye to eye. And the fourth step brings us there. Right? Should you wish this above all else? What we're asking you to do in 4, it ain't easy. Right? We skip the 4, drink a 5th. All right, we hear that all the time. I love it when I meet a woman and I just saw her. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you working your steps, honey? And she'll say, yeah, I'm getting ready to start 4. And 2 months later, I say, oh, what step are you on? She's like, oh, I'm still working on my resentments. Okay. I avoid things that look uncomfortable. I like to be comfortable. I like to feel good. I just want to be amongst you. But we talk in our program, our price must be paid. You can come to Alcoholics Anonymous and you're an alcoholic if you say you're an alcoholic, and we're never going to ask you to leave. But the magic is behind the door marked inconvenient. It's behind the door marked difficult. Right? It's behind the door marked, ooh, I don't want to do this. Right? But we do it. Should you wish this above all else? I thank God for the level of desperation I arrived to you in. That level of desperation. And I heard Ralph last weekend, and he'll come back next year because he'll be here. And we just have the most amazing storytellers and communicators in Alcoholics Anonymous. Ralph was talking about the person telling the story is not the person in the story. And the person in the story, that homeless woman, estranged from her family and her children, who had become dangerously antisocial, was a threat to you and anyone that came near her. That's not me. I've shifted and changed on a cellular level. Bob's going to talk tonight about transformations. This thing that happens, this beautiful thing we get to be a part of, continue in. A price must be paid. You know, and at some point, if you've lost the desperation, Ralph says, I come back for the inspiration. Because, you know, maybe at 40 years, you're not desperate. You're going to stay sober. You're going to be fine. But the inspiration, the stories, the opportunity to serve, to move a chair, to greet at the door, to host a speaker, to fill up the coffee, to be a part of some small part of this magical thing that we're doing. That's what brings me back and back and back. You know, and here's the thing. Do the fourth step. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't go for the A+. Just shoot for a C. And the good news is you're going to stay sober. And you're going to come back to that and back to that. Alcoholics, you know, if I sit down and play the piano and I can't, I don't ever want to play piano again. And somebody says you should take lessons. It seems like work. No, I'm just not going to play piano. I like to be good out of the gate, you know. And if it's not my thing, you know. And we'll do that. We'll bring that to our fourth step, and we make it a big deal, and we make it so complicated. And we got to take just do it. Just do it. You'll have time. Wait. You'll stay sober, and you'll do it again. You'll do it again when you take the next. Every time I take a woman through the steps, I'm going through the steps. Every time I meet a need of that woman, every time I'm going through this book, I see something. I think of something. I got a new inventory to do. It sparked something. It uncovered something. It brought me somewhere. And I get to go to my sponsor. I get to go to, you know, my best friend, Rachel. I get to go somewhere and say, hey, man, I got to tell somebody about this immediately. You know, this is what I figured out, right? And listen, there's going to be more. That first four step, that's not the totality of your four step. That's your first four step. It's just your first four step. That's all. And let me tell you, when you get into 6 and 7 and you start uncovering some character defects and you go and make those amends, you're going to be like, I got to start over. Right? Like, what the hell? I thought I did good. But it's okay. Bill thought of that 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12. This thing just moves. This thing just moves. I can get this morning in my room, I try to pray, I try to meditate, I try to get out of the way so God can help somebody, you know, if He sees fit to use me to do that. And I can get into mystics, and I can get into the Zen, and I want to fast forward my recovery. I'd like to be 15 years sober, but have like the spirituality of a 30-year Lavrina. I'm shooting for that. I'm like, turns out you got to stay sober that long to get that. But, you know, I'm just working with some things. And I think that maybe if I meditate harder, I'll levitate, or, you know, some wisdom will funnel into me while I'm in my yogi spot, you know, like, who knows? But I try to explore step 11 and do that. And to keep me right size, I always, thank a shoemaker. And if you're struggling with this, we're talking about steps, but the keep it simple, the trust God, clean house, help somebody, the action steps of this thing. I loved my 4-step and my 6-7 experience, and I do my 10, 11. I love all of that. But there's something real spiritual about moving a chair in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you can't figure it out and you don't know what's going on and your mind is screaming, may I suggest, for your consideration, move a chair. Show up early and set up. Sit in the meeting. Hold hands, join that circle, and when you're over, put the chairs away. My husband knows when I'm getting nutty, and he'll just drop me off at a clubhouse and say, why don't you go move a chair? Shoemaker writes, I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There is no use me going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside. As much as I crave to know where the door, and crave as much as I to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is the wall where the door ought to be. If you haven't ever read this, I hope you do. I got to write that eulogy for my friend who drank herself to death at 50 years old. She found the door, and then she ran back out. And I stand at the door for the ones that are coming in and the ones that might be on their way out. Thank you.